It's always tough being a Kanye West fan, especially in these special moments when Kanye announces a whole album after 2 years of being inactive and does not drop on time. Because yesterday we were supposed to be getting Donda, his 10th studio album, and of course, at the time of this recording, it has not come out yet. But listen, it could possibly come out in 2 hours after this video comes out, or maybe even like 5 days. Like, we don't really know. But listen, we're going to be going through all of the updates that we've gotten so far about the album. So obviously, Def Jam has spoken about the release date. We had the listening party yesterday, and it's a wild time to be a Kanye fan because everyone's hungry for music and everyone's kind of left wondering.
Yeah, and before we actually get into the rest of the video, guys, we're going to be taking you guys through the whole rest of this rollout, if there even is one, and hopefully, if the album comes out, we're going to be reviewing it. So if you're new here, subscribe, and if you've been with us, be patient with us because as Kanye fans, we're kind of all suffering right now. And so yeah, like you were saying, we're going to take them through all the updates, all the breaking news on when this album could be dropping. And then, of course, our first reactions and thoughts from the music that we heard in the live stream. So to start off with Def Jam, I mean, like you were saying, they were pretty sneaky because they had posted an Instagram post at 11 o'clock last night saying that Donda will be dropping at midnight. And then when midnight passed, they changed the caption from midnight to 7:23, meaning July 23rd. So they seem confident that it's coming July 23rd, but I'm definitely not.
Oh, listen, I'm not sure at this point because it's 3:30 p.m. Eastern time at the time of this recording, and we still have no word about the album. And listen, this smells like a Jesus is King sort of situation where Kanye does the listening party and then a month after almost doesn't drop anything. So do you think it'll escalate to that, or do you think Def Jam's going to keep the word and drop it today?
It's interesting because even Beats went out on a limb and said that, when that commercial came out with Sha'Carri Richardson, that the album would be coming out Friday, July 23rd. And here we are, and doesn't seem to be coming. So with Kanye, you have to expect him not dropping on time. And I don't know why, but for some reason with this rollout, he sold me on dropping on time. But I mean, if you look back at the life of Pablo, that was about 3 days late, and it came out, at 2:30 a.m. on February 14th, 2016. And then if you look at Ye, that was a few hours late. I think it came out at 1 p.m. the following day or something. And then Jesus is King, like you were saying, came out a month later. So it's kind of, it's classic Kanye fashion to not be on time, but at this point, I feel like, it might not actually be coming at all this week.
I know. It's kind of a weird situation, but listen, we do actually have some sort of concrete evidence that music has been made and that there's an actual collection of records that have been placed on a track list. So let's talk about Las Vegas and Atlanta because two completely different events and two completely different albums according to sources.
And before we dive into that, just to give you guys some updates that there is, music still being made. Theopolis London, who has collaborated with Kanye in the past, came out and said, you can bet Mike Dean and company are pulling an all-nighter to get the album done, and that Kanye is apparently adding in guest verses. Not only that, but today, July 23rd, at around 3 p.m., Digital Nas, who has production credits, posted an Instagram story saying thank you, Mike Dean, showing Mike Dean mixing the album still at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So they're still in progress of putting it together, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But the most striking thing for me was that apparently there is serious differences between what we heard at the Atlanta listening party and what people heard at the Vegas listening party.
So what were the main differences between both of them? Because I heard that there was mixing and mastering issues. I heard the crowd in Atlanta wasn't even able to hear most of the verses because the acoustics were all off and people weren't able to hear the vocals.
Yeah, so apparently the one in Las Vegas, the sound and the acoustics were much better in that, space. And apparently that had more Kanye bars and it had a lot more introspection. And apparently it's almost as if it was two different albums because besides certain songs like Praise God, which featured Travis and Keem, or songs like No Child Left Behind, it was two totally different, track lists that Kanye played for both parties. So it's interesting to see how much material he's playing with. But I mean, speaking about the Atlanta one, it's pretty crazy because apparently, like you were saying, the people in the attendance weren't able to make out who the features were. So when we saw Kanye play that whole feature and the crowd didn't really react, it's because they didn't even know it was Jay-Z.
I heard some people say they thought it was 2 Chainz at first when they heard it. And
yeah.
I kind of understand where they're coming from because I guess when you're in a stadium, obviously, the sound quality is not going to be up to par than, as we heard it on the stream, right? Because we had it on the speaker. But this is my theory on that whole thing is like, I feel as if Kanye was trying to see the reception from both albums. I feel as if like Kanye had made a bunch of songs and was just trying to test the reception live. So he did probably one half of his material in Las Vegas and then based on that reception, did another half at the Atlanta show, and I guess at this point, who knows what's going to be able to make the track list. But, going on with this, let's see.
He seemed angry, though.
He seemed cheesed.
When Kanye was standing in front of the crowd at the end after Hove's verse had died out, he was literally staring them down, took a moment to ponder, saw that he didn't get the reaction I guess he wanted because he was probably assuming that, I guess from where he was, he could have heard, the sound much better than the people that were above. So he was probably like, this is the return of the fucking throne and you guys aren't freaking out. And then he just stormed off. So he might have been a bit angry. That's what some people close to Kanye were saying. But we do have a working track list based on the music that we heard from the Atlanta show.
Absolutely.
So
I'll go through this. I'll start it off. So we have 24, You're Gonna Be Okay as the first track. Then we have South Carolina.
This is not in order, by the way.
Yeah, this is in no order. Then we have South Carolina featuring Pusha T. We have Remote Control. Then we have I Know God Breathed It on this. Then we have No Child Left Behind featuring Vori. Then we have Hurricane featuring Lil Baby and Casey. Then we have Praise God featuring Travis Scott and Baby Keem. We have Moon featuring Don Toliver. By the way, that was fantastic. Love Don Toliver's vocals on that. Then we have Love Unconditionally, and then we have Heaven and Hell featuring Jay-Z. The other features that we have is Vori on 3 tracks. We know we have Post Malone and Ty Dolla $ign maybe, and then apparently Griselda is on it based on a West Side Gun.
Playboy Cardi was heard yesterday. We also have Lil Durk, Roddy Ricch, and probably many more that we didn't even get the chance to hear, which is absolutely wild. I mean, Chris Brown was confirmed too after he put out an IG story. So it's just crazy to see how much Kanye's working with here. And I feel like he doesn't really know what the best, output is going to be for that. I think that's why he's taking all his time, is because he wanted to kind of react to the music and kind of experience it for himself too in this huge setting. Forget about the fan reaction, but I think it was for him to kind of be in that moment and see what captivated him the most out of both parties.
Oh, I agree with you. And going back to the listening party in Atlanta yesterday, how did you like it? Like the overall set, the vibe of it, like the suspense, like how was it?
I mean, to start off, Kanye's outfit was crazy because, the first thing that I took away from that was that Kanye was dressed all in red. Yes, it was reminiscent of, the Runaway outfit that he wore when he performed that. And, of course, it gave you My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy vibes. But the main outtake for me was that, number one, Kanye and Kim were both dressed in red. To me, that showed unity, that they're still, a cohesive unit as, co-parents. That's kind of the message that I got out of that. And it also relates to the album cover for Donda, where we have the shape of a woman in red. I think that's what that kind of represented more than the whole MBTF thing. But apart from that, his performance was very unusual because he was, standing around doing different poses most of the time. It was a very stoic performance. And to be honest with you, it's kind of like, okay, he was dancing sometimes, but he didn't give much. It was kind of, this artistic expression of him just being there without showing his face. So
yeah, like his presence was enough to be able to build off the show and keep it going. Like that's what I liked about it, was that it wasn't over the top, it wasn't super extravagant. And not only that, but I also liked how the set changed as certain songs were played. So certain songs, like you see that Kanye was being like emphasized in a light that had like a triangle form, and then he had all the smoke around him at certain points as well. And it was cool because at a certain point, like Kanye wasn't moving, and you see everyone in the crowd with their phones out. Like it's just like an awesome God moment where he's just standing there and like everyone's in awe. Like, I can't believe I'm at this experience. And I would have loved to be there to be able to hear it live, but I don't know, based on the reception of the audio, I don't know if I'd pay that money.
I think I would rather have been at the Vegas one, to be honest.
Oh, the Vegas one must have been crazy.
What was the highlight for you? Like, what moments really stood out to you and got you excited for the future of Donda?
Well, that whole feature, Return of the Throne, and I think maybe we'll do a video on this at one point and seeing where we could go with it, but that took me by surprise because that was the one feature that was not rumored, and we were like, imagine Jay-Z gets on this track list. We were like, it probably never happened, and then boom, puts it right there.
In 10 years.
And that kind of gives me like, really good Watch the Throne vintage vibes because I want to see them collaborate together. I feel as if they're in such a unique position in their careers where, now they're on like that $1 billion mogul status. And as far as hip hop goes, who really has the stature of Jay-Z and Kanye West or even have that duality at this point? So it was really cool to see it added to the track list. But let me ask you this, overall, what do you think the situation is with this album? And do you think we're going to be getting it today?
To start off with Hove, though, I do want to add that it was interesting to see them, rap over this rock beat. And Hove recorded that verse apparently at 4 p.m. So just 5 hours before the actual, show took place. And that was, told by Guru, who tweeted on Twitter about that. But it's just crazy to see them reunite, and it's sad that the crowd didn't get to hear Hove, because that would have, I mean, they would have erupted, and that would have been electrifying. But I mean, my overall thoughts with this is, like I said, I feel like Kanye is just testing the waters. I don't know why he gave us the date, because it's just a major tease for all fans. But to be honest, I was disappointed that we heard more of the features than we did hear of Kanye. But the one sentimental moment that really stood out to me was on the song Love Unconditionally, where he actually got down on his knees, and we heard him, singing or rapping, "I'm losing my family." And in the background, you have Donda's vocals saying, never abandon your family no matter what. So that was a very personal and heartfelt moment. And you could have really felt, I would say, the pain in Kanye just by his stance, without even him saying a word.
Absolutely, and I also got a ton of cinematic value. Like Kanye was able to create this universe for me, and it felt super deep. It felt super dark at the same time. Like I felt like I was going through his emotions with him. And if I kind of have like a theory on what I think the album is going to be, is like he's going through a fuckload of grief, and you could see as the track list was progressing throughout the show, the track list started getting a lot more, let's say, futuristic with the synths. He started doing a lot of more introspective singing. Like it was also like the mood and the tempo had changed from with the progression of the track list. So
I don't think that's the right order of the tracks, though. I feel
no, I know, but that's why that's just based off what I got out of the listening party. But man, I'm just waiting for this. I'm cheesed.
It was odd, man, just because I feel like I got a kind of a mixed bag of a feeling overall with the songs. I mean, the one Remote Control, that was super repetitive, and I didn't really like it too much. Apart from that, I mean, the intro, it was pretty nice, where he repeats, "You're gonna be okay." That was awesome. Loved what Travis and Baby Keem did. And production-wise, I mean, like you were saying, a lot of distorted bass is the first thing that I noticed. Apart from that, I mean, there were some songs that reminded me of, minimalistic beats that you would have heard of off of 808s. Other things were very manic and had some industrial sounds you would have heard off of Yeezus, maybe.
Also, some new psychedelic sounds that, Kanye never really played
on
with
before. On the Sun Moon with Don Toliver,
Absolutely.
Man. That was beautiful. That was probably my favorite feature that I heard that night.
Not only that, but looking into, let's say, the gospel aspect of the album, because there were still elements of gospel, especially with, sometimes the choir singing it back and the background vocals really brought light to the track list. And I like, if the one big W that I kind of got out of this listening party was that Kanye will forever produce amazing albums. Like out of all the material I heard, not one production missed. And listen, like going into this new review, if it ever ends up coming out, especially today, I'm gonna have very high standards for the production, because what I heard was phenomenal, and it got me excited.
One last question: prediction: when is the album dropping? It's right now. It's 3:51 p.m. Eastern time. Is it dropping today? Is it dropping this weekend? Is it dropping never? Is it a Yandy situation? What are your thoughts, man?
Well, I don't think it's a Yandy situation, because when your record label, especially like if you're Def Jam and you come out and confirm the album, I don't know. That's a bit weird in my opinion. But then also you have, the whole Beats commercial, like Apple's putting their name on the line for this album drop. And then, Kanye does this, grand sort of entrance back into the industry with a beautiful live listening party in Atlanta, and probably captivated millions of people. So I think it's definitely coming. Now the timeline. Well, we do have sources that are saying that he's currently working on it. So, what his timeline is, I'm not sure about that. But one thing that we do know is that the release date is today. So I kind of have to go with today, and I'm going to stick with it.
Today.
I'm going to go with it.
From what I heard, the fact that there's two different versions from both listening parties, the fact that, I mean, it sounded unfinished. It sounded like the vision wasn't totally clear, at least based on the order that we heard at the Atlanta party. I feel like he needs a lot more time, and I feel like, he's bringing Rick Rubin into the mix to hear the album. He wants to hear different opinions and thoughts, and I think he wants to, be the perfectionist that he's been known to be. So I'm predicting next Friday, July 30th as the release date.
Wow, that's good. Okay, let's see if it actually happens. Listen, when your record label comes out and says a date, you got to stick with it. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, it's a classic Kanye moment. I don't know how no one really saw this coming, but there was a couple of people in the comment sections, but whatever. We'll see what happens. And listen, guys, as we mentioned at the beginning of this video, we will be going through this whole Donda rollout, so update by update. And when this album does come out, you better believe we're going to be dropping a review/reaction. So guys, on that note, thank you so much for watching all of this video, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching the video. It's always a pleasure doing content for you guys. Listen, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because we're doing album reviews, and we actually have our series called Everything We Know, where we take you guys through the whole album rollout of the hottest releases of the year. Not only that, guys, but our Patreon plan is now live. You guys can access that in the bio. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.